is Dirshu Mishnah Berurah, Simin Yud Zayin, Sif Aleph and Beis, of learning as we are concluding the month, has been generously sponsored as the Chosi L'Neshama V'Chaim Mordechai Ben Naftali Tzvi, whose yahrzeit was last week. The learning of the entire Chabura should bring Chaim Mordechai Ben Naftali Tzvi to an higher and place in Gan Eden Shalmayla, and as well bring his entire family, be a meditation for his entire family in Klal Yisrael. And we pick it up beginning a new simin in which Shavis of Kair the Machaber titles Mi Heim Achayavim Tzitzis. Which people are obligated? Now we're going to talk about the people. Basically, until now we've dealt with the garment itself. Now we go into which people are obligated in wearing tzitzis. So says the Machaber in Sif Aleph, Avagav Dechsever Isim Oisai. Even though it says in Bamidbar you should see the tzitzis, seemingly maybe if you cannot see you should not be obligated. Still says the Machaber Suma Chayiv Tzitzis, quoting the Gemara Menachos, says Suma is obligated in tzitzis. Why? Because of a different basignations. Rabbi Meisher Tachasaba. Because the Torah says if it covers your body, and therefore the suma, a blind person, is included in that. And that pasuk is coming to exclude a nighttime garment, in which we're going to have to deal extensively. That's the big shayla about wearing tzitzis at night. It comes from the ksus laila. Is it referring to only a garment worn exclusively at night, like pajamas? Is it the nighttime itself? A big machlekes rishayim, as we'll see. But for today, Sival teaches us that a blind person is obligated in tzitzis. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkatan Al, Chayiv etitzizu pashat yachlev hari gam kinale. Not just that he's chayiv, he could even make a bracha. But he should check them. He should check them either by feeling them. He should feel mishmash yada by feeling with his hands to make sure everything is there, or he should ask someone else to check them to make sure they are kosher. And therefore, and they said the Machaber, so what does Re'isim Oisai come to exclude? Ksus laila. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Vasvar Neisenes l'Rabbis Ksus Suma. And it makes sense that we're including a blind person's garment. Why? The garment of a blind person is included in that which is seen. By other people. It's not seen. Of course, you can see at night, but it means that nighttime is not the time of seeing a garment, and therefore it makes a lot of sense, says the Mishnah Berurah, that we're including a blind person and excluding a nighttime garment. And now comes along Sif Beis, in which we're going to get involved in the famous Gemara in Kedushin of mitzvahs asei shezman grama, a time-bound mitzvah, in which we know, in general, a time-bound mitzvah is that which both nashim, avadim, women and servants, we don't have slaves nowadays, but they are patur from such mitzvahs. So says the Machaber in Sif Beis, Nashim ba'avadim v'turim. A woman, a slave, is patur from the mitzvah of tzitzis. Why? Because they are time-bound mitzvahs. But says the Ramah, if they want to wear tzitzis and make a bracha on it, or just be yadam, they're allowed to. And as we pointed out, this is the shita of the Ramah for Ashkenazim always. That Ashkenazim hold that women are allowed to make a bracha on mitzvah seishes man grama. We gave the example of Hallel, which women can make a bracha on, but Svardim hold no. Svardim women do not make a bracha on mitzvah seishes man grama. So similarly over here we see that says that the Ramah, the woman, if they want to put on tzitzis and make a bracha, they could. Says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Ramah, excuse me, Mechzik Yehura. It looks like gaiva if a woman were to do such. So first the Ramah taught us they're allowed to. Midina, a woman could theoretically put on tzitzis and towels and make a bracha. However, they shouldn't do it. Why? Since it's not a chiyav on the person. Meaning, if it was a chiyav on the person, then of course you can't say it's about gaiva. But because here it's not a chiyav on the person, therefore they should not do it. Pirish, and the Ramah himself explains, one is not obligated to buy a towel to be chayiv in the midst of tzitzis. Which of course, this is a line that I think we've already mentioned. We'll just mention again that tzitzis, ostensibly, one does not have to go and put on. So when you have a four-corner garment, you put it on. Whether that applies to men as well, we'll speak out Ramesha Feinstein in a few moments. But let's first continue Sif Beis. Says the Machaber, Tumtum v'androgenes, terms that we've learned to the Gemara. Two different people, we're not sure if they're men or women. They have an issue that either their aver is covered over, or we're not sure if is it a zachar or nekeva. Chayovim b'safik, t'chayim b'safik, v'isatvu b'loy bracha, l'shver tzitzis without a bracha. Pirush, tumtum loy noidem hu zachar nekeva. Like we said, a tumtum is that the aver is covered over. So we don't know what it is. Androgynous, usually zachars and nekevas, they have both the member of a male and a female. Haga. They are allowed as well. Who's they? This tumtum and androgynous, according to the Ramah, according to Ashkenazim, are allowed to make a bracha. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, Sivkot and Gimel, discussing the mitzvah, that the mitzvah says Zman Grama, what's the time-bound mitzvah? It's by day and not by night. Why? The Tefillin, this is the Gemara in Kedushin, that the entire Torah is equated to Tefillin, and just like women are part from Tefillin, why? So we have Tzitzis kol Torah mitzvah say that we're learning from Tefillin, and Tefillin is learned from Torah, and a woman is potter from Torah. Why to men to your daughters? So just like they're potter from Torah, they're potter from Tefillin, they're potter from all mitzvahs aseiches man grama. Came to us becomes aseiches man grama. That's woman. We learn that an evid from a woman. Sheisha petura gama evid potter. That's the Gemara in Kedushin daf lamed daled. Women are potter in Torah, they're potter in Tefillin, they're potter in all time-bound mitzvahs, which will lead us to the conclusion that they are potter in tzitzis as well. Said the Machaber Sivkot and Daled, quoting the Ashkenazim, the Ramah, they're allowed to put on and make a bracha. They get reward. Since men commanded, the men are commanded, they also have reward. But said the Ramah, because it looks like Aiba, they shouldn't do it. And it's not a chayvas gavra. So says Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Hey, says Mishnah Berurah, why does a woman make a bracha on lulav? We said halal. Here they do not, because it's not a chiv on the person. A man doesn't have to put on a tzitzis. If you have a four-corner garment, you put it on, but they do not have to. Says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Mishnah Berurah, you should know that with regard to tzitzis, there is part of it that is a chayvas gavra, and part of it that is not. But and he explained, this comes to include that it's not any obligation on the garment. Let's say you have a four-corner garment in your closet. You're not wearing it. There's no obligation on the garment. You don't have to put on tzitzis. That's kula number one. Lav chayvas gavra. On the other hand, it's not a chayvas gavra. You don't have to buy a talis to put on tzitzis. That we will get to. Let's actually finish up the Mishnah Berurahs over here, and then we'll see some Dirshus, and we'll speak out the Ramesha like we said. Says the Mishnah Berurahs have gotten involved that a tumtum and androgynous, one who's not sure, male or female, they're chayavim misafik desafik taira lechomra. Can't go to basis. Umashmi said the davar shechuva rakmin derabanan. It sounds like if it's only a chiyum derabanan. Going for example, talishul achar shashim yoyim knal sim yadalid, like we learned earlier. Oy baggage chuva rakmin tam safik, or a garment that we're not sure if it's obligated. Going baggage chatzi besuach chatzi sasum. It's 50-50 open and closed. Knal sim yodsev zayin. Rishayin lelech by bloy tzitzis. It sounds like a lot of word without tzitzis. But vayin prima gadnish because v'oid kain says similar cases. V'ulay dish lahachmer b'chozad nishamaris ayin, as we've seen already in Siv Ches. And that is the case of the Safik. And said the Ramban, said the Machaber, that the Tumjan and the Droigin is should make a bracha Sivkot and Zayin. Why? Given the Ikr Chivu Rak Misham Sveika. The main obligation is a Safik. Linear bracha Shum Derabanan as Linear Kula Safik brachas lag. I like one sit inside these Zayin, Mishnah Berurah, Mashadikhlav Shem Shem Kama, Klolim Mishem Abaiskim Bazeh. But said the Ramah, what is the terms of the enjoying the Zachos on the Kevas who Gamkin Safik Zach on the Keva? I know to Zachayim, Shevi Rayim become Mekayim Step Askinikin La Lacha do together Safik. Vloy Command Amar do Beraria Bafnei Atzmai. We paskin it's a Safik, we don't paskin that it's their own creation by themselves, and that's the reason why the Svardim, the Machaber says not to make a bracha, whereas the Ashkenazim, the Ramah said you are, yes, allowed to make a bracha. Says the Dirshu over here in note number 3 that it's not a chayvas gavra. You don't have an obligation to buy a garment to put tzitzis on it. And he quotes that's the reason why in Siman Chav Hey, one who cannot afford tzitzis, you cannot afford tzitzis and tefillin, should buy tefillin, because that is a chiyuv where tzitzis is not. Tzitzis is only if you have the four-cornered garment. Now, let's pause for a moment over here and let's speak out Rav Moshe Feinstein. Says Rav Moshe, the Bizman Hazeh, one has an obligation to put on tzitzis. The Mishnah Berurah said you don't have to. Said Rav Moshe, it's a minhag that Al Tito Ishtayr Simecha, Klal Yisrael is mekabel upon themselves to put on tzitzis. Klal Yisrael said that we don't wear a four-corner garment anymore. It's also based on an Amuki Yosef. But Klal Yisrael says that we now wear a talis cotton. And therefore says Rav Moshe, it's a minhag and it's binding. And you have a chiyuv now to put on tzitzis, a startling Rav Moshe with regard to the obligation of putting on tzitzis. And with that, we will conclude and we'll pick it up tomorrow from Sif Gimel.